Hello and welcome to Mann's Model Moments. So I haven't got my on air. Wait a minute. Can't stream without the on air. Oh, I've got a branding thing in front of it. Let's get rid of that. There we go. That's better. Anyway, welcome everybody. A slightly abortive start. So let's just have a quick look at the chat. We've got Mark, we've got David, we've got Steve, Ian, got Gary from Gremlins Modeling Mayhem. I think I mentioned Ian already. Yes, I have. We have Graham. We have Stuart, David Barber, and Penny's Pit Stop. Welcome. Good to see you. So, I received a package today from ICM. They're actually all on holiday at the moment until the 12th of August. So this actually was put in the post a while back. And usually it takes a couple of days to come from Ukraine, and then it resides at the post office at Heathrow for about a week or 10 days or something before it then makes its way to me. Don't ask me why. But anyway, we're going to have a look at what's in the package. I've not actually opened any of the things, so there'll be, obviously I know what they are, but I haven't looked in them. I have the second cam as well, so we can get a good close-up look at things. And welcome Hobby Time, just you popping in. And I've also got a few other bits that I've been tinkering at. To quickly show you. Let's see. Let's bring in the second cam. So let's put some additional lights on. Switch to that camera, I think, rather than you having this extra camera. Here we go. Let's add this in. That didn't work. There we go. I got there eventually. So let's get you in front of me, so you can see exactly what I can see. So let's clear the decks, and then so of course we have this. So you've probably seen the unboxing and build review video that I did of this. This is the Airfix Vintage Classic Belvedere, complete with blue tack that I just tacked on the rotors with, as you saw in the video. I didn't put the front transparency on, I just balanced it on for the photo. I think I made myself fairly clear. I mean, just you can see the filler that I've had to use just on some of these joins. It's yeah. It is certainly a kit of a bygone age, and pretty disappointing for £16, I must say. But yeah, that happened. And then in the same box that I received the Belvederes in, I also received from Airfix this. This is the BF109F starter kit. And this is absolutely fantastic. So it's like chalk and cheese, the experience of, you can see I've just sprayed the interior of the cockpit. This, of course, is their easy, quick fit thing. Beautifully rendered, delicate panel lines. Obviously, you've got the hole for the flight stand. I've done it in flight. The option for, come on, focus. Hello, there we go. Have the option for raised or lowered tailgate, unlike the P51. Don't know why the P51 didn't get that treatment. This is a really nice little kit. It really is, you know, complete opposite. And this is what, £11.99 from Airfix. You can pick them up for about £11. I would buy these all day. And not the Belvedere. This. Somebody actually commented on one of the videos, you know, because I said, "What's the point of this?" And they said, "Oh, it's a great, you know, introduction to the hobbies." No, it's not. Absolutely not. 100% not. Wrong. This will put anybody off modeling. Really. This is the way to get people who haven't done models into modeling. This goes together like a dream. It's a really nice rendition of the aircraft. The F was about the best looking of all of the 109s, I think. Maybe the K was good as well, but you know, they really stripped it down. They got rid of all of the ugly bits, if you like. So it was a lot more aerodynamic and streamlined. So that is fantastic. Just to give you an idea of how small it is, though, let's get rid of that Belvedere. That's the 109. This is the Fairy Firefly, the frog one that I did on stream. Just to give you an idea of scale. Look at the difference. You know, it's huge by comparison. So I've got a fair way on this. So I put a new floor in. There's actually a floor in here, which wasn't in before, and then the shelf as well. Come on, focus. Not behaving tonight. Come on, camera. There we go. So you can see I put this shelf in. The floor is so that the photo etch seat can just actually sit on that. And I've got a couple of radios to put in here and on this back shelf. And then I've just got the seats to put in, obviously. So that's come on. Obviously, there's a little bit of filling to do, particularly on this wing root. And I need to open up some of these pieces, put some mesh in here. So, you know, there's bits to do, but it's, I mean, considering the age of this, which isn't a lot older than the Belvedere, you know, this actually goes together pretty well. I mean, there's the actual detail supplied is of its time, but I mean, it's better than this, which is nothing. So, yeah. Just sorry, just having a look at the chat, just saw a few more people pop in. Ivan, welcome. Professor of Plastic, thank you. That's a nice accolade to have. GB Models, welcome. UFC God 62. Wow, that's an interesting name. And then the other little thing that I've done is this Ryan Firebee. Now, I mentioned this being a Mojo build. This took less than 30 minutes to put together. Again, it goes together like a dream. You know, if you want to, you can clean up these seams. I didn't do anything to this. I just put it together. So there is a little seam there. You can see it is pink. So this is primed in the new Outlaw Pink primer. So it's quite pale. I think Moss mentioned on Airfix and Chill how it's a lot pale. Unfortunately, I don't have. I've also got the other Ryan Firebee, which I made and did in Mr. Hobby pink primer. So I'm going to do a direct comparison between the two. So that should be out next week. And the other thing, which is related to tonight's topic of ICM unboxings, you'll have seen I did an ICM unboxing from the June releases of the Humvee. This is that kit. This again, what's going past there? This again, nice little Mojo build. I did this in a single sitting. I departed from the usual sequence a little bit. I haven't put the wheels on, obviously, because I want to spray those before I put the tires on. And I haven't put the seats in because they're actually green. I'm going to do this in desert sand. So it's actually, the US color is, I think it's camouflage tan number 2, something like that. I'm going to do it, I think it's in Panzer Ace's old wood or new wood or handlewood, one of the woods, which is an almost exact match for the FS number. And then it just has some little panels at the bottom here, which are black, you know, and the controls and things. Obviously, I haven't put the steering wheel on. So I'll do those, put the decals on after it's all sprayed. And now I'll just put the seats in and transparencies. There's another piece for the, basically transparencies going here. And there's another piece, which is why I haven't sprayed these, which actually attaches to this for the windscreen. And then there is actually a sort of C pillar here as well. I'm leaving all those fiddly little bits off until it's actually painted. But again, I did this in Outlaw Pink Primer because I think the sand, the tan sand color, will look good over this. We'll find out, of course. But again, if you like vehicles, the ICM Humvee is a nice little, you know, mojo build. It's about the size of a ferret. It's a nice little kit. You get a full. Obviously, this is all sprayed black, which is why it's all masked at the moment. But you get the full chassis, transmission, engine, and stuff in here. It's really detailed. Looks really good. Which, of course, 90% of which you won't see. But that's quite a nice little kit. No, not that little. So let's get the decks cleared a little bit. Once again, guys, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in capitals, like question in capital letters, so I can spot them. Because especially when running these things yourself, it's quite difficult sometimes to see these things. So first thing I'm going to do actually is raise you up a little bit. And actually, let's go this way. Let's elevate you slightly, get you a better. Well, you can just see the top of it here. This is you guys, your view. So some of the other June releases that will be coming on the channel. Got the ZIL 131. So this is a Soviet designed truck and trailer. So I've got a review coming on this. That'll actually be called A Tale of Two Kits, because this is not an ICM original kit, whereas this is. And I think you can guess what that means for the review. So I've not looked at a 70-second vehicle, I don't think, before from ICM. So that one's in process. And then the other one, which was quite surprising for me. Oh gosh, still can't see it, can you? Let's angle you a little bit. There we go. You can see it all there. Is this box set? The Dardanelles campaign. First World War, obviously British and Turkish forces. So this is just a figure set. You actually get a little diorama background with this. So actually, open it and have a look. So you get quite a lot. So you get 2 lots of weapon sprues for the British. You get a Lewis gun. You get all of the British figures. You get a British machine gun team. You get the Turkish figures. And then you get this little diorama, scenic kind of base thing, which is quite cool. So obviously you get the best out of that when you see those really, really close up. And 35th scale, obviously, ICM figures are really, really nice. So I think Gary from Gary Stuff looked at this and again said the same thing. Really, really nice figures. It's not only that they have really good sculpting of the actual and molding, casting of the actual figures. Whoever sculpts them understands, and it's a different skill, right, from making normal models. They understand like anatomy and the way people move, and posing a figure in a dramatic way that looks natural is actually quite challenging. And if you've ever tried to draw figures, you'll probably understand that. So sculpting that in 3D is a real skill. And these are excellent. If that's something a little bit different from the norm, that's certainly one I'd recommend. Now, let me I just saw there was a couple of questions. Yeah, somebody said it's upside down. Travis Thompson, welcome. So this camera auto flips, and I can't control when it does that. So you'll kind of have to bear with me with some of that. Maybe if I'll put you away from me. maybe that will work if right, yeah, you should be the right way up. We'll see how that works. Let's just adjust the cable. Oh, that was close. Okay, Adrian has a question here. So let me just go back, actually, way back, because somebody mentioned. Well, Ian mentioned Sprigoo. You're welcome, and I'm glad you enjoy it and like it. Plug that for everybody else that's not used it. So the Mann's Magic Leveling Thinner. Mann's Magic, I think I have to owe Mark thank you for that name. He came up with that. So it is available. I was going to say from tomorrow, but the labels actually, unfortunately, I got some other news, which means that I can't do it tomorrow. So it'll actually be Monday before I have the labels come in. I have to collect them from a depot rather than being delivered, because I won't be opening the shop tomorrow. Again, I'll come to that later. And scroll all the way back down now to get Adrian's question, which I've just lost. Here we go. So Mann's Magic leveling thinners are exactly the same. Well, I won't say exactly the same. They have exactly the same 4 chemical components as Mr. Hobby leveling thinner. And it's been formulated, so I can't guarantee the percentages are exactly the same, because obviously that's proprietary. But they're formulated to produce the exact same results. And it's been tested independently. So I tested it, obviously, but then I sent samples out, and people got the same results. So it wasn't just, a fluke. So I'm very confident in them. So it was really brought about because getting Mr. Hobby leveling thinners in the UK it's problematic. The supply is erratic. So I wanted something that people could have to substitute, which would be locally produced, so it will always be available. So even if it's out of stock, it's just a matter of me, getting the stuff in and making more. So, it'll only ever be out of stock for a couple of days at most. So it has exactly the same properties. Now, a lot of people use them for lacquer paints. They are 100% organic thinners, right? So people think you can't use them for acrylics. That isn't true. So I'll obviously go back to the fact that there are a lot of different types of acrylic paint. You don't know that, watch my video on it about acrylic paints. But a lot of people think you can't use them with aqueous-based paints. And let me just... So this here, if it'll focus, this is actually what I sprayed the Valkyrie with. Okay, these are, I've actually used all this, so unfortunately it's, well, there's a tiny bit, tiny little bit at the bottom here in there, which is still liquid. Look, as you can see, you know, it's all liquid, it's not gunky. This is Ordic Olive, which I think is a Formula P3 paint, which is a normal aqueous-based acrylic, thinned with my thinners. So, same with Mr. Hobby. This, again, is a standard aqueous acrylic, thinned with, you know, my thinners, or Mr. Hobby thinners. Because of the properties of the organic solvents used, so one of them is IPA. Of course, you can dilute a lot of paints with an aqueous solution of IPA. IPA can be a bit harsh, so it can cause some aqueous paints some components to drop out of solution if the concentration is too high. There's isobutanol in these as well, which is quite hydrophobic, which is why it works with lacquers and stuff. You can use them with enamel paints as well. They work with enamels. But if you've got something like Humbrol, you know, standard Humbrol, aqueous, this is Humbrol acrylic. So it's a little bit separated out because this is a collection of starter kit paints. But you can thin this with Magic leveling thinners or Mr. Hobby leveling thinners. It depends on the ratio. And so you can do this with practically any. Now, not all, because some will have components. And I say it depends on the proportion, because things like isobutanol aren't very water soluble at all. Think about 5% it can tolerate. So if you dilute this, we'll say 1 in 4 in thinners, so 3 parts thinners to 1 of this, the amount of water in the overall solution is actually quite low. As long as these pigments can dissolve in the other things, and because you've got polar organic solvents, a lot of them can, as long as everything's still in solution, you're okay. Now, if you dilute this 1-to-1, you'll get a horrible gloopy mess because the water comes out, nothing, it just, the whole suspension, because this is a suspension, it's not a solution, it's a suspension, but the whole thing just falls apart. So always test it. But a lot of the time you can get away with like doing Vallejo or, you know, any old acrylics, you know, aqueous acrylics, what most people think of as acrylics, you can get away with using leveling thinners with. But as I always say, nothing's guaranteed. You always have to test first. Tamiya or Mr. Hobby thinners, which have already some alcohols and modified alcohols in, work perfectly, absolutely perfectly. So, so it's one of the reasons that I think the Mann's Magic works well, because they work over such a wide range, and it's also why I've created this spectrum range, because the spectrum is, you know, like the visible spectrum or the electromagnetic spectrum. It's a wide range of things, and you know, this covers a broad part of that spectrum. So there's the nerdy reasons for my naming conventions. But yeah, you can use them with a lot, which is why, of course, they're very popular. They extend the drying times of your paints. Now, you might think that's a bad thing. Well, they don't necessarily extend them. It depends. If you're using enamels, for instance, they can often shorten those drying times. But the reason is because they have higher boiling points than water, the solvents in there. So they aren't as volatile. They don't evaporate off as quickly. So they give more time for the paint to settle and find its own equilibrium, hence the leveling aspect of the thinners. That was a very long explanation, but hopefully it made some sort of sense. I did see another question here from Steve. Bit of a strange question here, but when someone orders a kit from you, do you ever think yourself, oh my God, why do they want that crap? I'd find it amusing if you did. No, because I don't tend to stock crap. So I wanted to, and again, the Belvedere is, so vintage classics are kind of an exception, because I feel that the market for vintage classics is, I mean, the only reason to build this is as a nostalgia build, right? You built it once, or you saw it in your youth, and you want to build it again. You know, there is no other reason, or you just want a real challenge. You know, you want to, or you're a masochist, you know, and you really want to elevate a base kit to something that is more acceptable, I guess is the word. I mean, if you saw the build, I can't remember the channel now. Somebody please remind me. I watched it, and this mentioned on Airfix Chill, I think. But I watched his build, and I mean, he replaced so much of this kit, including, of course, he vac formed a new canopy. He replaced all of the landing gear and these prototype engine covers with resin. That includes the front of the aircraft. So all of that was resin. He opened up this. He got rid of all of the pieces. He replaced these horizontal or vertical stabilizer sections, you know, cut away and put the swoosh on. Just, you know, it wasn't, this was basically the chassis, the skeleton that then everything else was built on. So if you want to do that, I would suggest there are other better kits to do that with, but, you know, if you want to, you can. So I actually don't buy a lot of kits from, for instance, Revell that I know are bad. So I don't stock like the old 1950s, 1960s toolings that Revell did, because they are not honest on their box art, and they don't publish their tooling dates and stuff. So I actually have my list of Revell stuff, if you can imagine a big stock list. The first, it's all sorted, and first, I would say 30% of it is red. It's just blocked out in red, and I just don't order any of that. So the oldest ones I do order are the Matchbox kits, because Matchbox kits are actually quite cool. It went together well. So if you know a newer model have built one of those, they'd be actually okay with that. But not so much a 1950s tugboat, you know, that doesn't fit and has flash everywhere. So secondhand section, of course, is slightly different, because some people want to buy secondhand kits and they want particular things. So, you know, so no, I don't ever think, you know, oh my God, why do they want that crap? Unless it's a secondhand kit, and I just think, oh, okay, you know, that's their thing. Somebody bought a USS Enterprise the other day, a secondhand one, which is just like, not my bag, but you know, that's who am I to tell people what? I don't gatekeep their pleasure, but if somebody asks for a recommendation, you know, I'll ask what sort of things they're interested in, what their experience level is, you know, and give them an informed choice. That's part of the extra service I think a shop, you know, a model shop does. You know, that's why it's better than buying from Hobby Lobby or, you know, something like that. Redstone, you member, thank you very much, sir. Good to see you. So I am aware, let me just swap these over, because I'm aware I'm just showing a white screen at the moment, which isn't the most enthralling stream you've ever seen. So there's a couple of quick questions, and then we'll get on to the ICM stuff. So I have vascular dimension, I'm only 54 and also going through cancer treatment. Well, I have to say that's a lot to go through. My hands shake and I get tired. Is there any aids, or does anyone have any suggestions? I live in the UK. I would say just take it at your own pace, and don't hold yourself to anybody else's standards. This hobby is about enjoyment. Part of it is, it does help in concentration and manual dexterity and all of those things. I don't know of any specific sort of things you can do to, steady your hands, or, so if you're painting, I mean, there's obvious things that you can do, try bracing your hands against something. And I mean, I do it when I paint, right? Small things. I'll have something in my hand and I will have my other hand on it as well, because otherwise you've got this hand and this hand, you've got two different movements. So, brace one against the other. I have my elbows probably on a table. So if you're forming that sort of triangle, it makes it a lot more sturdy. So there's kind of techniques like that. I'm fortunate that, I don't have issues with my hands. I know John Alec sometimes has that, and obviously he's been through a lot health-wise, so he might have actually some more, personal advice and experience, because I don't have that direct experience. But there are certainly things you can do that make it easier. But as I say, it's very much for you. Don't hold yourself to anybody else's standards. Just take it at your own pace and just enjoy it. Modeling is great for mental health. It's good for, say, concentration, relaxation, and practicing. So don't stress over it, I would say, is the biggest thing. But thanks for the question. Okay. Little bits of... Okay, Julian says, I mean, one of my hands works properly. I'd suggest blue tack is your friend. Use it to keep what you're painting clean city. Yeah, again, anything that can help you steady things. I mean, it's useful for anybody, right? Regardless. So you will find, and again, this is where I think we can learn from mini painters. So a lot of mini painters have like painting handles. So there'll be like a little plastic or wooden thing which you attach your mini to, because it gives you a lot more stability, and then they will rest their hand against that, or it'll have something specifically to rest their hand on. And again, it's all about that, trying to get more angles of stability. But thanks, Julian. Greg's models, thank you. Yes, it was Greg's models. He made a great job of, but as he said through, I saw his build, and he said, I hate this hobby sometimes. And I think that's not really what the hobby is about. And I'm not telling anybody not to buy this. It's your choice. I was just very honest about my thoughts on it and my disappointment in it, because I was really actually looking forward to doing the Belvedere. I've never come across this kit before. It's not been an aircraft I've been interested in. It was long before my time, and it was only when I saw it at the helicopter museum I thought, actually, that was quite cool. But it's an almost completely different aircraft to this prototype one. I was looking at photos again today, actually, and around the cockpit, the sliding windows, they had this big rim around them, because the prototype, they found that the upwards hinging windows, the rotor wash used to push them back down, which makes sense, right? But these are sorts of things that only really come out when it's being used. Same with this big door, that used to slide up, to hinge up, and again they changed it to a sliding one. But that means it protrudes like quite a bit from the main fuselage, and it has these big rails that go along. None of that's there. So hopefully the Micromere kit will show, those features. And they're doing a 1/48 scale one, which, I mean, that would be quite a large kit. It'd be interesting to see what that looks like. Yeah. So the Revell kits, Revell makes some good kits. it's also made some real trash. Like Airfix. Airfix has made some bad kits during point in case. It's about informed choice. Always check on scalemates. Generally speaking, the stuff they made from the early 90s to about 2010, 2005, 2010 was good. They made good kits. You know, that was when they kind of really came back, because again, like I discounted Airfix until a couple of years ago, I had discounted Revell until the 90s when, you know, they started doing all this new stuff. That's my Discord, which I need to mute. Mute server. There we go. So is it a bargain? Depends what the kit is. You know, it's very, very specific. Revell also box a lot of other people's kits. I mean, all kit manufacturers do, including ICM, as I just mentioned with the 172nd ZIL. But Revell is very, very bad at it. Now, that can be good because they do rebox ICM kits. So that's good. They also rebook some really old garbage. So you've got to be careful. Okay, question. Yesterday it was 32 degrees in my flat. Oh my goodness. I tried airbrushing AK3G paint and it was well thinned with AKM. Okay, I'm not sure what the question is, Mark. Let me know what the question is to that, because I think that's a statement. Was it that it didn't work? Not sure. I'll wait till you get back to us. Related to Steve T's query, do customers order via you any kits you would not stock yourself, or do you just decline ordering and explain it's crap? Yeah, people do order stuff specifically, and no, I don't decline ordering it if somebody wants to, provided they're making an informed choice. You know, usually when people order something specific, they know what they're ordering, right? And I don't think I've had anybody order something that I know is a bad kit. So it generally tends to be things like, I mean, people have ordered, you know, Tamiya kits, ICM kits, Airfix kits. You know, it's on pretty safe ground with most of those manufacturers most of the time. If they're asking, again, if not, they're generally asking a recommendation, and then I would recommend, you know, one of those kind of manufacturers. Because, you know, again, it's not for me to gatekeep what people's enjoyment is, you know, and what is a crap kit? So clearly, again, Exhibit A comes out. Now, to some people, this isn't. I mean, it doesn't fit together well. It needs a lot of cleanup. It's got no detail, and it's of a prototype that wasn't used in service and then were all upgraded to the actual standard. But again, if you built it as a child and you just want to relive that experience, however bad it was, and for whatever reason, that's up to you, right? Generally speaking, though, it's more like, so let me give you some examples, like Hobby Boss kits and Trumpeter kits. You know, people will say, oh, that's a bad kit because it's not accurate. Well, if people don't care about accuracy, then that doesn't matter, right? So again, if people are making an informed choice and they don't care that, you know, like the Airfix Cromwell when it was originally released, if they don't care about the number of bolts on the wheels, then it's a really good kit. And now they've reissued it and corrected that, then, you know, it's a really, really nice kit. So yeah, if people ask what is the best Cromwell kit, then I'd have to ask them, well, what do you value in modeling? You know, is it accuracy? Is it a good, you know, ease of build? Is it, you know, the length of the project? It means different things to different people, right? Okay. AK3G, yeah, the paint went stringy in the airbrush. Yeah, I expect that's the temperature. I expect what was happening is it was curing before you got a chance to spray it. The AK3, I've never used AK3G thinner. I've used the AK third generation paints. I haven't had a problem with them. Don't think I really airbrushed them that much though. I mean, it tends to be, I will admit now, because I tend to switch over to lacquers for spraying now. The advantages of spraying lacquers far outweigh, for me, it's different for everybody, but far outweigh the disadvantages, because I have somewhere that's well ventilated. You know, if you're in a flat at 32 degrees, I wouldn't recommend spraying outdoor, because that might be the last thing you ever do. So yes, Steve recently ordered a couple of kits from me. I mean, kind enough. I wouldn't say I was kind enough. You know, I think that's a service a model shop should provide, right? If you can get them. I mean, obviously, and I can get most things. You know, even down to Zokimura kits. You know, I can get. I don't tend to stock them, and the reason I don't stock Zokimura kits, despite the fact they're excellent, is it's a niche market. Right? There aren't very many people who build Zokimura. Because they're expensive and they're a high intensity build, like mini art. I do stock mini art kits because it's kind of one of those things. You know, mini art has that place in AFV, 135th AFV circles that, you know, they're known as challenging, but they're known as very good as well. So it's kind of, I don't have a huge amount, but there are mini art kits in the shop, you know, if people want to push themselves that. Some people just want to come in and buy, you know, a Tamiya Panzer II, you know, because they know it's cheap and it's easy and it's good mojo build. You know, very different experience from a 1,100 piece Panzer III from Mini Art. But other people would love that challenge. You know, Stig, the Stig. Welcome. Are those helping hands stroke magnifiers any good? I mean, I won't say no. They have a place. Depends how much you're paying for them, obviously. The magnifier in it, I haven't found. I had one. I still got one somewhere. I don't use it. There are usually better ways to do the same thing that a helping hands does, but some people do, you know, and they do have their place. You know, occasionally. Often though, it's just not for model related things. They're kind of better for things like if you want to hold a couple of wires together for soldering. They're great for that. That's not really something you encounter in modeling that much unless you're lighting things with LEDs and stuff. But so they're kind of a 5 out of 10, I'd say, helping hands. If you can pick one up for a couple of pounds, you know, you can often get them from markets and places. Okay. I think I've got. Apologies, Alex. My daughter kept kicking my chair. The message was sent in 3 parts. No problem. I think we got the gist. Pavel, nice to see you. Tom, welcome. People keep popping in, and I apologise if I don't say hello. It's because I've missed you rather than anything else. So let me get on to the main event. Anyway, let's have a look at what we got from ICM this week. So these are the July releases. That's not what I wanted to do. These are the July releases. So this is the smallest of the boxes. And as you can see, I've not even cut the tape to open these yet. So you're seeing them at the same time I see them. So infantry weapons and chevrons for the armed forces of Ukraine. So I'm looking at a video at the moment that looks at a lot of Ukrainian So basically all of their figures for the Ukrainian forces. And this is kind of an accessory set for it. It looks like you get a lot of different weapons there. Wow, even an old, is it the Mosin Nagant? AK-47, AK-74. Okay, let's have a little look. Standard glossy top with various bits on the sides. Same stuff we used to from ICM. And then the ubiquitous flip top opening box. All of our sprue. The thin paint carts and the sprues. Let's have a little look. So standard instruction sheet, the art, all of the little blurb, all of your paint references. I'm going to be doing a video on ICM paint as well. Wow, that's a lot of chevrons. Let's just put the ultra zoom on. Let's just have a little look at those. Okay, it looks blurry because I haven't removed the protective sheet. That was an Alex error. Okay, you're getting, so these are all the units. Very nicely printed. And there are dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of them. Look, I know this is upside down because I can't get it the other way around. Ukrainian flags, got shoulder straps, rank insignia. I mean, yeah, that's a lot. And I mean, just to give you an idea of how large they are, you know, that's my finger. So these are not big. These are shoulder patches and stuff for 1/35th scale troops. Pretty impressive. So the instructions I expect are just going to show us a lot of different weapons being made. So I don't think we'll spend much time there. And then you have a complete list of all of the military branches in both obviously Ukrainian and English. Submarines, combined arms, artillery, tank forces, and then you have all of these different ones. The 14th separate mechanized brigade. So all the mechanized brigades, the infantry brigades. That's pretty comprehensive. I mean, wow, there's a lot. Wow. Okay. And it continues. Then individual divisions, Marine Corps, all the shoulder straps, junior sergeant, senior soldier, you know, all the different ranks, other patches that they have, patches with the flag of Ukraine. That's pretty impressive. There's a lot of information there. Ubiquitous ICM paint chart. So I have noticed they've started doing primers, which I haven't tested yet. So I'm not a huge fan generally of acrylic primers. So we'll see how those come up. And I've not tried the thinner ice either. I have found ICM paints though, and I think it was mentioned here somewhere. I can't see it just there. Oh, there we go. Ivan says, I'm a big fan of ICM paints, great with a hairy stick. So Generally, I tend to spray with Outlaw, and then more often than not, occasionally spray with Tamiya as well, because they have some, depending on the effect you want. So Tamiya paints are more transparent. So Outlaw paints are great for their speed and color density, but sometimes you don't want color density. So actually ICM paints are better for misting on. So if you're doing pre-shading or marbling, that kind of effect. But then for hand painting, so painting with a hairy stick, I tend to use ICM paints more than any others. Apart from their metallics. Some of their metallics, like the silver and stuff, is a bit weak. They got a whole bunch of sets, and that's obviously all of their paints. The one thing, which is one of the reasons that I want to do the video, is sometimes the choices of the colors, the designations that they give in their set are curious. Let's say they're not what I would have chosen as that color, for instance, like the RAF set, for instance. So let's have a little look at the plastic. If I can actually get into the bag. There we go. I am a fan of these self-sealing bags as well. So you've got, okay, so most of these are one-piece cast. Recoilless rifle here is 2. But I mean, it's the standard ICM kind of quality of casting. I'll just show you. Okay, that's an AK-74. For 35th scale. I mean, look at that magazine, drum magazine there. You can get an idea of the scale from how big the injection gate is. Let's look at some of these. Sniper rifle there. I mean, they've even got the, I can't remember what you call it, the serrated bit on top for your different mounts, you know, your tactical mounts that the sight is mounted on. Suppressed, that one. So got some ammo belts here. I mean, just look at the detail just in the ammo belts. A couple of different calibers. So pretty impressive in terms of the casting there. So those are kind of like the heavier weapons. Oh, I say that and then immediately bring out some even heavier weapons. Some there's AK-74s again, or 47s. I think they're 74s. Various different ammo boxes. It's a guided missile launcher. Some more automatic weapons, like bullpup kind of rifle there. A couple of bullpup rifles. Light machine gun. All of the various different little accessories. Put the super macro on again. You've got some sidearms. Also got a couple of tactical helmets here. Look at the detail on those. More sidearms. This is one of those sets I really enjoy. But don't use that much. I want to change that quite soon. You'll see that coming up in a video not too far from now, maybe a month or so. I have a little diorama project that will be coming up. So you've got some duplicated sprues here, obviously, to get multiple copies. And just, you know, even on these cutout stocks, some really very, very fine casting, as you'd expect from ICM. You know, I say it a lot in the videos and the video reviews from ICM, but that's because it is continuously true. I mean, look at that. You've got a drone controller there. These little drone blades. Body. And I think that's the controller box for it. So, you know, representation of the modern nature of warfare, how it's evolved in the Ukraine. So here is that old, I mean, obviously Ukrainians are using everything and the Russians are wheeling out some really old garbage. So yeah, we've got an old water-cooled machine gun there. With its wheels. Again, ammo belts. So if you think you're doing a modern conflict diorama, I mean, not just in the Ukraine, obviously we work perfectly for the Ukraine, but and if you're not doing it in the Ukraine, you're kind of missing out on all of this, which I must say is incredibly impressive. That's a lot. You know, these are the sort of little greebly bits that just add atmosphere to, you know, a diorama. Just make it seem more real rather than, you know, everybody just having the same guns or the same loadout and things. That's the small bag. Just consolidate them, I think, into this one. So that is the accessory set, the infantry weapons, the ones of the armed forces of the Ukraine. Nice to see that mix as well of Soviet era manufactured weapons and more Western manufactured weapons. You know, the Browning, for instance. So that should be being put to good use in the not too distant future. So let's move on to another Ukrainian subject. This was actually in the June release, but I'm waiting again for that main review on the figures and the diorama. Look at this, but this is a Leopard crew. So in 35th scale again, same format, top opening box. The ubiquitous paint chart. And then I mean, it's not really an assembly guide that you get in these kits, the figure kits. You just basically get a sprue layout and then, you know, the assembled figures, complete with, you know, painting, kind of all in one. Interestingly, they're expecting you to paint the pixel camo. I did give you an example of how that's done. That's interesting. Also doing a couple of videos. One is on figure painting for scale modelers, kind of a basic guide, kind of a cheat sheet, if you like, for starting in miniature painting, because miniature painting is quite different from painting vehicles and aircraft. And then one which is also painting or visualizing things like an artist, and maybe taking a different approach to painting. Just move my mic a little bit. And let's get the super macro for these. So let's look at the doggo first. We want to see the doggo, don't we? So it looks like kind of a, I don't know what, Labrador, a golden retriever kind of thing. Correct me in the comments, those of you who really know about dog breeds. So the sculpting on these, as I said, it's really good. The details are really nice. I mean, you know, I think if you look at hands on figures like this, you can get a good idea. You know, if you look at hands on some figures, they are very unrealistic in how they're posed. I mean, even if you just look at the way, you know, you've got an impression of kind of tendons under the skin there. If I just rotate that slightly with the shape of the hand, you know, really nice folds on the clothing. You know, separate hand there. What is he? Is he giving it the dog a treat? Yes, he is. So, you know, again, really, really nice casting. And, you know, one of the things I like about this is it's not, you know, just a set, you know, yes, it's a Leopard crew, it's a crew of a tank, but they're not just doing tank things. You know, they're doing what people do. Okay, these guys, you know, are working on some element of the wheels or tracks, whatever. They're also not specifically, I don't think, you know, necessarily for a Leopard. You know, you could put these basically on pretty much any tank, I think. This guy and his dog could be in anything. These guys could be repairing pretty much any vehicle. Obviously, they're wearing tank helmet gear, so probably going to be in an AFB, but they're a little bit more multi-purpose. But I like them. They've got, I think what ICM manages to do with their figures is they manage to sculpt them with character. I think that's the missing element of a lot of figures. I think Mini Art are pretty good at it as well, and you know, some of the manufacturers as well. But combining the sculpting, the casting, and the character is quite a big ask, you know, if you are not a dedicated mini company. You know, you've got to remember that a lot of companies like Games Workshop and stuff have many sculptors, you know, and they still get it wrong. Okay, I didn't know it was called a Picatinny rail. So I have learned something today, which is always good. Thank you, Julian. Question Alex, as part of the Spectrum product line, will you be doing your own version of Mr. Surfacer? Probably not. So, and the reason is Mr. Surfacer basically comes in different grades. And it's that grading process that really, it needs to be an industrial process. So that's beyond my capabilities. That means I'd have to actually look at, external manufacturing, and that's not a place that I'm at the moment. If indeed I will ever be. So no, I'll be doing an aqueous thinner as well, a broad spectrum aqueous thinner, compatible with as many makes as I can make it. I think I've got a formula which works with pretty much everything. Works with everything I've tried, and I've got a pretty big range of different manufacturers. But all paints are individual, even from the same paint line, you can get differences in paint. If you look at, it's one of the reasons actually I like ICM paints, is they're very consistent. Not 100%, but generally, if you get a black, you get a white, you get a color, they'll all be the same kind of consistency. That isn't true of a lot of paint brands, and actually the Tamiya lacquers, the LP range, is notoriously bad for having variability. Some of it is like almost too thin to use in the airbrush straight off, and some of it has to be thinned, which is not ideal. You really want the same properties. That's why Outlaw's great as well, because even if you want to thin it, it's always the same consistency. So I wonder if one of the ICM staff has a dog. I think so, like 150 staff there, right? I'm sure many of them have dog. Because yes, there have been a couple of dogs in different sets for sure. Alrighty, let's get on to some meatier things. I'm going to cut this first before I show you what it is, because then it's more suspenseful, right? Is that a word? Suspenseful? I think it is. I just haven't used it in the right way. Okay. So this is not a new tooling. So some of these, obviously, in fact, I think most of the July releases are kits with different parts rather than completely new toolings. But this is, sorry, the KFZ 70 with MG34. So it's the Hummer of the German army of the time, I guess. Really, it's a little bit bigger than a Kubelwagen. The other thing I like about ICM is the boxes are always pretty full. They do use standard size boxes for the kits, but they always seem to use an appropriately sized one. The only ones that sometimes don't feel as full are the figure sets, because they're all single sprue, but they always come in the small boxes. So, but anyway, you've got single bag containing all the sprues, transparency, and the tires there are separately bagged. That's pretty normal. Our old friend, the paint leaflet, and the instructions as normal. So you get your usual little bit of blurb, the ICM paint guide. So I like ICM paints, but as I say, this guide I would always take with a pinch of salt. As I do with most manufacturers, of course, because again, as I mentioned in the video, the paint by numbers one, or the stop paint by numbers one, I should say, these are their closest guess, They're not a paint company, even though their paints are good. It's not their main business. So the research they employ in, getting the exact shade is not necessarily the same as a company that is just doing it. Nice little decal sheet. Go for the extreme zoom on that one. So really excellent crispness in how these are printed. Little Edelweiss, whoops. It's small enough that I could drop it. Good color density on the reds. The dials are a bit basic, but to be honest, if you look at World War II, well, actually even post-war vehicles, dials were pretty basic. Standard layout. I don't think there's much to go over in these kinds of. That's actually, it's one interesting thing. This, I'll just show you this close up. See this layout here? Looks extremely similar to that on the 1/24th scale German staff car. I wonder if it's the same kind of CAD file. Just an interesting point off the top of my head. So, as with most ICM builds like that, like the Hummer here, you get everything in an ICM vehicle. So you get the engine. Most of the time you can't see these. It is, unless you're looking at it from underneath. But it does give you the option for super detailing or showing a wrecked vehicle or opening up the engine bay or whatever. And it looks like you get a complete chassis, which I've seen in several of the smaller vehicles as well, which is quite nice because the chassis assembly is usually the most fiddly bit and what some people don't enjoy. So avoiding that, I think it's a good call on a smaller vehicle like this. But all looks pretty standard construction steps and fair. So, yeah, plenty of detail. It's nice, actually, you've got because obviously this was for carrying small squads of troops or had that capacity. So you do have the rifle carriers in the back here. Tools and bits and bobs, then the MG with its post mount there at the back. Multi-purpose, of course, can be used for anti-aircraft and general anti-infantry use. And obviously you've got one there for African version and one for general Eastern Front. Yeah, I think you're right, Julian. I mean, especially then, basically they just told you how fast you were going, probably how much petrol you had. That's probably about it. Maybe the water temperature or maybe a battery charge. I imagine that's probably about all you would get. So that's the MG sprue, as I say, which is very similar in the way it looks to that 1/24 scale staff car with the MG as well. I mean, of course, the Germans used very similar mounts because standardizing stuff is a good thing in war. But it just makes me wonder if they did that or whether this was designed from scratch. But Let's have a little look in super close up. Nice detail on that MG34 barrel. And actually the elements at the front. Looks like you could almost screw that muzzle brake off. So yeah, very nice. These obviously I think would probably be drilled through, but that would make the part extremely weak. So obviously I think if that's the case, you have the option to do that when it's constructed. So all looks pretty nice. Look at that grill on this. That's not focusing because I'm not getting close enough. Casting on that grill is really good. That's really fine grill elements there. And as far as I can see, no flash at all. Looks really good. So yeah, you can see how fine that is. I quite like these little vehicles. They're not something that I really ever thought of before, but since I've had the Ferret and then doing this and a couple of others, it's just like they're quite nice little builds, you know, and you can build them up mostly because you don't have tracks as well. You don't have to do all the stuff. Still got to finish the Burger Panther tracks. You know, I did the actual tank in like a day and a half. The tracks take me weeks. It's like a tracks. It's like they're not the most exciting things to do, are they? It'll look good in the end. That's the thing to think of. But this, I mean, little Mojo build. I expect this. This looks a little bit more involved. Well, it is definitely more involved than the Humvee. Get that nice fold mechanism for the rear canvas cover there. There's the wheel hubs. Again, some really nice hub detail. If I can actually get it into the right spot, the camera will focus for me. There you go. A couple of those. The only thing I don't like about these is the fact that they're all in one bag, because you can kind of get this happening sometimes, which with small delicate parts, you know, can lead to damage. So basically you get kind of this big main sprue with the main elements on, kind of big pieces of the under chassis, sides, this front driving compartment, etc. Those two with the wheels, the two wheel ones. This one with all the doors, the MG. Then you get the two fiddly bit sprues. So this is the one that has the main chassis on. Come on, focus. Focus, please. Hello. Maybe I'll just move it closer. There we go. So I think that is a good thing. But look how fine some of this casting is. I mean, this piece, that is incredibly fine casting. I mean, the main difficulty here, and I would say with ICM kits, things like mini art and stuff, single-bladed nippers are essential. Yeah, because you try to take that off, with anything other than a sharp single-bladed nipper, and that's going to break. So that's the caveat I would use. And obviously they're for kind of intermediate up modelers, I would say. You know, and releasing something like this. So really, this is a matter, the way I do this is I'll cut this whole assembly free of the main sprue, which gives me this little round bit. And then I will cut like here and here. So we've got a piece there, here and here. So it's just this piece attached. So I do that all the way around, and then I can get in to access each of these and cut them cleanly. And then you don't end up damaging the part, and you don't have to try and get your nippers in and do odd little cutting bits. That's how I generally deal with pieces like this. But again, you know, look at how fine these elements are. Ridiculous, really. And I'm just going to, for no particular reason, you know, we've come a long way in 65 years. That's all I'm saying. A few people saying good evening, as in goodbye to people. So, oh, hi, Mario. Good to see you. I've got a couple of people going. Ivan, good night. Apologies if I don't see you pop in or out. It's only because I'm focused on other things at the time. So yeah, this deals with all kinds of bits. The engine, you've got the engine here. Exhausts. And there's a lot going on there. So yeah, definitely a more involved build than the Hummer. And this is another thing. You've got all of the little grab handles. I mean, good God, look at this. This is, look how small that is. I presume that is a handle for a door. Oh, little hatchet there. One of the rifles. These are the small elements. Like how thin that is. So it's amazing that, you know, you can get this sort of finesse these days, which of course has great benefits, but also comes at a cost of, you know, this is obviously not a beginner's kit. It can lead to frustration. You have to be very careful about, you know, detaching the parts and not losing parts, not breaking parts. You know, again, same with this that I described with the last one. Releasing this, you know, I'd be very careful to cut away pieces, you know, down to this rather than trying to snip it out. Because if you try and snip this out, unless you've got very sharp single-bladed nippers, and even if you have, if you cut that, if you get any deformation in this inner piece, it could snap. You know, one part of it could snap. Whereas if you're cutting around this edge, you know, the rest of this is basically taking that strain. And then you're only addressing these pieces individually and they're not connected to anything else. There's no transfer of that stress. So that's the way I approach it anyway. So that looks an interesting little build. Maybe not so little. Looks a little bit bigger than the Hummer. Maybe about the same size. Probably thinner and longer, I imagine. To one side for a moment. Get onto a slightly larger vehicle. So we still have a couple of kits after this one. So I need to speed up a little bit. this is World War II again, but this time it's the Studebaker, the American, in this instance, the gasoline truck version. So they have released Studebaker earlier, but this is the tanker version, so the separate parts of that. Oh, I should say as well, you do get the tires. And transparencies. But you've seen tires and transparencies before. We'll gloss over that, please. Really nice decal sheet for this truck. I mean, firstly, really nice markings, the US national markings, and then you've got all of this warning text in different types of font too, which is nice. The stencil font. And then, don't know whether that's post-war or just separate, but nice to see. And again, some of this, you've got incredible little instrument cluster there. Oh, you get 5 dials on a truck. These, which I imagine are little information panels. A little bit of banding. Just seeing on that star. Having said that, no smoking within 50 feet. That takes you back to a different time, doesn't it? Jones, put that cigarette out. Yes, I do mean typeface, Pavel. Yeah. My son would bring me up on that as well. He's a graphics guy, graphic communication. So typefaces are very important to him. So this, of course, the larger vehicles in ICM's range do tend to have assembled chassis. Okay. I was going to say, I don't know what this is particularly asking me to do, but fortunately, this is one that has step-by-step video instructions, which is great to see. I mean, they're tending to do that on most of their new kits. Now, this looks, again, pretty standard in terms of ICM truck build. Again, you get the full engine, transmission, everything, cooling system, and then you bring the cab on top of it. The only thing I kind of don't get with ICM in some of this is why they don't give you options for opening some of these a little more to show all of that detail. Okay, so we have a nice angled windscreen there. See that? So pretty basic. You know, there's not much glazing in a truck. Got the lights, the rear, the 2 side windows, and the windscreen. But all look nicely done, and they look like ICM's normal clear, very clear plastic. The actual fuel containers looks like these duplicate sprues. Yes, they are. You also get a number of gas tanks there. Jerry cans, whatever you want to call them. Again, Of the extreme close-up cam. There's the handles. They're nicely crisply cast. The actual cans, probably much nicer than the actual cans would have been. There's the closures for them. Really, really nice. So I do like when, and I think ICM and MiniArt are both quite good at this, when manufacturers make slightly unusual versions of very widely used vehicles. You know, it just adds a little bit more interest. Really, the protective grills here, different versions, very nicely cast. You know, the steering wheel, again. You can see the little moldings for the grips on the underside. You know, that just little attention to detail. Front grille. You know, to me, yes, you can replace, you know, you can add to these kits with resin, with photo etch, but if a manufacturer is providing this level of detail to enable you to build something which is pretty, you know, finely detailed just out of the box, I think that's, again, it demonstrates how far we've come, you know, since that Belvedere 65 years ago. Some really nice, fine, restrained detail on some of these elements. Again, making this, it will obviously be factory fresh. You probably would need to beat it up a little bit with a Dremel because I don't think these things, you know, out of necessity, were particularly that well cared for out in the field. Maybe a fuel truck would be a little bit better cared for than a general one, because I think the consequences of not doing would be a little bit more severe, but you never know. But again, you know, a fuel truck provides a nice set of diorama options. Now that's interesting. We have plastic wheels, not rubber, for this. So I'm not a massive fan, I must say, of these sort of, you know, vinyl rubber tires. I think they can work in sort of 35th scale up, but they're hard to clean up if they're not very nicely cast. These are pretty good, actually. But you know, you can't paint them in the same way. They don't take paint as well. You know, weathering them is, again, a bit of a pain. This one does have a little seam there. Whereas this, you know, with plastic, you can do whatever you like. So I much prefer this option of having plastic. You know, I want to create a scale model, and I'm not trying to create a toy. You know? I don't need it to have the same material. Part of the skill of modeling is to give the illusion of these materials by the way you paint it and weather it and all that kind of stuff. So that for me is a preferable route than this. Just a personal preference, but I also really like the way these are molded. Just the impression of the actual wheel. You know, I know exactly what that is looking like. Do they also have lettering around the edge? You do. Firestones. Look at that. They've got all of the GR54 8-ply. Wow. You see that you can't really get in a vinyl tire in 35th scale. That's really impressive. Very nice. Thank you, ICM. And then another fiddly bit sprue. Wow, look at that transmission. Wow. Okay, so this is an all-wheel drive vehicle by the looks of it. Okay. Wow, that is something. I do like it when modeling gives you insight into the actual vehicle, how things worked, for instance. So these are pretty basic, but obviously other pieces go onto that. And if you just look at the cylinder case head there, looks great. Detail on that. Spark plug entries and everything. Very nice. And again, it's a pretty mundane subject, right? It's a fuel truck. Not something that I would naturally be drawn to, but it's such a nice looking kit. And as I say, the options it gives you for building interesting dioramas with stories. Dioramas are very much about telling stories. I think for something a little bit more unusual, I mean, you can do that with a truck, because a truck can be in so many different scenarios, really. But armies march on logistics, on their stomachs, on what they're able to travel with, ammunition, all of that stuff. Right, last two. It was good because we are coming to the end of time. This is a big one. Big old kit, this. So probably won't all be on screen, and you will have seen some of the figures before that appear here. Let's move it up so you can actually see. Oh, there we go. It just flipped. Look, don't flip. Go back the other way. Let me turn it around then. So this is 1/35 scale Leopard 2 A6 with crew. Oh, there we go. Now it's changed. So here's a big old box. So on the little camera there, it's a big box. Very big, actually. The 35th scale tank. Now, I've never done a Leopard 2, so I'm actually quite looking forward to this. In fact, I don't think I've ever done a modern tank. I've got the Macabre. So this, of course, is a duplicate of what we've already seen. The Ukrainian tank crew released last month. Then we have a huge bag with other bags inside. So that does not look like an ICM bag either. So we have rubber tracks. We have a sheet of clear plastic, very clear plastic. We have lots of sprues there. And then another bag with more sprues and more bags. Lots and lots of plastic here. Hey, John. So some side skirts there. A whole bunch of stuff that I don't know what it is. More side skirts. That is the 120mm cannon, of course. Now, where does this come from? I'm going to check on ScaleMates. But bear with me a second. Right, so we want a Leopard to a 6. Going to 1/35th scale. It's a tank. All right. Interesting. Interesting indeed. So, guess who makes the original tool for this kit? Any guesses without looking on ScaleMates? Don't cheat, like I just have. Because I thought, this doesn't look like ICM plastic. And I know it is a special edition. It is Revell, Gary, yes. So this is actually a 2012 Revell kit. Remember I said Revell kits from the sort of 90s to 2010 or so are pretty good. This actually looks pretty good. You got some pretty good detail on this. That sprue is as bent as a 9-bob note, as my father would say. Look at that. Look at the warp in that. And that's how you can tell it's a Revell kit. Because the sprue, not the parts, the sprue has an enormous piece of flash on it. But, you know, some of the parts here, look at this. It focuses on this. Is it going to focus? You can see you've got nice detail. There we go. Nice cast detail there. That looks pretty good. Now, I haven't seen reviews of the Revell kit because I've never, as I say, never done modern tank. The Leopard has never really been something that's interested me that much. It's kind of only since the Ukraine conflict that I've really been looking at it. It's sort of grown on me. Because a lot of modern tanks, you know, have a similar kind of look. You know, it's that kind of convergent evolution kind of thing. I think only the Russians have a slightly different approach, and it's proved to be not that effective. If you look at the T-72 and T-80, they're being used. There's a bit of flash. See there? It's fairly light. So obviously the collaboration with Revell goes both ways. So Revell has been boxing a lot of ICM kits recently. Obviously they're returning the favor to have this Leopard in Ukrainian. That again, though, is that sprue is warped. Parts also look a bit bent, but they do look quite thin, so I don't know whether that's going to be an issue. So I should build it and find out. So that's interesting. I didn't look it up beforehand, so this is kind of new information for me. And I do find that quite interesting. But yeah, again, these, you know, they're quite nicely cast parts. Have a little look at the tracks. Good night, Julian. That's interesting. These are multi-part rubber tracks, which I've not seen before. Very large attachment areas. That's usually a good thing. Wonder how they'll react to glue and stuff. There what those are. Get a couple of those. And cables in. Now that is the most inefficient use of casting ever. There's about 90% more material in the sprue than there is in the actual part. That is ridiculous. That's really silly. Excuse me, it's made me sneeze. It's that silly. I mean, as well, for a flexible, I mean, you couldn't, come on, Revell, you couldn't have thought of a better way of doing that? Really? All right. So let's have a look, see what ICM has added to this kit. So obviously you get the crew, and then you get the Ukrainian markings. Quite like the rendition of the hand painted markings. That's pretty good. You know, the way they are slightly imprecise, you know, not all the paint going out because they've been fairly hastily applied. And they're not the same either, which is good. It's a nice little touch. Oops. Okay, interesting. So it's a Revell kit. Oh, but you don't. Wow. Okay, so you can't see that. So, sprue L, you don't use all of it apart from those two parts. That's amazing. How strange. Okay. Well, this will be the first Revell kit I've looked at on the channel for a while. I think the last one was the Starfighter, the Unwanted Influencer. It's a lot of, I mean, okay, the paint options are very similar. Okay, I mean, it's the same camo each time. But you get quite a few different units. Yeah, what is it? Yeah, a couple from 2023, 3 from 2023 from Robotny. December last year. Yeah, so you get 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 6 different units. Okay, we'll have to see how that bears then. I mean, I have to say, listen, you can tell it's not an ICM kit straight away when you open it. The plastic feels different. It looks different. But it isn't bad. It doesn't look bad. So, interesting. Not what I expected. So I keep dragging that Hummer across the table. And then the last one is an even bigger kit. Again, this is not a new tooling, but this is an ICM one. And it is a 48 aircraft, or rather it is a set. You just put it on the other. Swap the main. So, because this is big. So this is the Nakhon Phanon. Probably said that completely wrong. Nakhon Phanon Airbase. So big old set. Big old set. Now I've really been impressed with the 148 scale aircraft that ICM have done. So let's have a little look. God, it's big. Whoa. So I think this is the largest box. Okay, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bags of screws. That's 7 bags of sprues, not 7 sprues, 7 bags of sprues. I've got more of these paint leaflets. I should sell these and make a fortune. Okay, so huge pile of plastic. So you get US Aviation Armament. That is this set. So a lot of bombs, a lot of rocket pods, and this is all Vietnam era weaponry. So a lot of iron bombs, a lot of unguided rockets. Really, really nicely cast. Which I'll skip over for the time being. So, just to give you an idea, those are all of the different things you get. So you get a BLU-23, BLU-27, LAU-10A, 6B, 69A, Mark 77, SUU-14A, Mark 81 Snake Eyes, Mark 81 low drag bombs, Mark 82 low drag, Mark 82 Snake Eyes, a multiple ejection rack launcher, or several multiple ejection rack launchers. So yeah, you can kit up your aircraft with pretty much most Vietnam era sortie matchups. There you also get a nice decal sheet. Quickly throw that on the apologies, I just pressed the wrong button. Here we go. Let's try that again. So you also get all of the markings, which actually do say words. You know, they're not just little scribbles. You can actually read danger. I mean, look at that. Dispensable bombs, SUU-14A. I don't know. They've got all of the like little stuff. And just to give you an idea, that is the size of my finger here. Right, so all that stuff you were reading, that's my fingernail. Apologies, because it's a horrible fingernail, but so yeah. Just to put it in perspective again, that's that text, which was all actual text. And there's my finger. So ICM's printing capacity, and I know they have their printing done externally, but it's quite phenomenal. The only thing with ICM decals is once they're down, they don't want to move. So just be prepared for that. You get the US pilots and ground personnel, the Vietnam ones, and the US landing mat. You get 2 sets of that, 2 bags, each containing 4 screws, I think. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. You get 2 of those. You get plenty of landing mat. So basically, this is a diorama in a box. There's your 48 scale crew. I'll come back to those because they're quite impressive. Oh, I didn't realize you actually get 2 aircraft here. Wow, okay. Okay, so this is the O2A Skymaster. Ah, yeah, there she is. You get the O2A. Oh wow, you get is that like a CIA one? So you get several iterations, 4 markings on that. Interesting. They've got association with AK there. So you get the O2 Skymaster, which is just a single bag. So you get 2 screws. You also get weapons in here as well. You get 2 screws plus the transparency for the Skymaster. That looks like it could be quite a nice little build. Struggling with boxes here now. And then what I thought was the only aircraft you get, but you also get a counter invader, the B-26K. So, and this looks really good. ICM are really good at doing these packs. So I got one in the shop, which is actually 2 of the O2As, of the Skymasters, Vietnam ones. I think they're actually Vietnam camouflage, one of them. No, it's a Bronco. Sorry, it's 2 Broncos. And a lot of people look at it. I think it's £46. And I look at it and think, they look at it and think, oh, it's expensive, but it's 2 kits. So you get 2 aircraft in that, which actually then works out as like 23 quid each. It's like, actually, that's not bad at all. So yeah, this is, you can straight away tell this is an ICM kit. I mean, it's funny how when you look at kits, if you didn't have any other cues, you just know instantly this is ICM. There's just the quality of the plastic. It's got a quality about it, which is, it's sort of flexible and sort of hard, but has a sort of softness to it. Strange, hard to describe. These incredibly fine panel lines, which react super well to wash. And then the design of the sprue and frame, you know, they do this a lot, this little O in the middle. It's a characteristic of them. Now all of your stores pylons. Looks like the tail. There's the airframe. Yeah, looks really nice. So why you got little vortex generators along the tail there, just on one side. That's interesting. Wow, look at the detail on the inside of that. That's impressive. As ICM aircraft often are. Huge instrument panel. That is enormous. Look at the size of that. Didn't realize that was so big. And then these long, thin, narrow wings with all of the stations on. Funny how the Marauder and Counter Invader, you know, the same numbering, 26. Yeah, a very different aircraft. Adrian, no. Could this be another 20? No, no, I don't want to do that again. There's the Bombay. Really, just really nice. The thing is, if I did this in 24 hours, I would learn from the prior one, and I wouldn't do things like open the Bombay and stuff, which again, I think is kind of doing a disservice to the kit. These big old engines again. You know, especially with something like the Invader, which was just loaded with weapons, you know. Super clear transparencies, option to have it open or closed. That's nice. It's a replicate of that sprue. Great big squared off paddle bladed propellers. Kind of an aggressive looking aircraft, the Counter Invader, isn't it? There's the nose, like all of the MGs, and they have those 8 MGs in the nose. That looks like a very nice kit. Which, you know, going by the other 48 scale aircraft I built from ICM, I wouldn't hesitate in recommending any of them to anybody. They are, you know, intermediate builders. They're not first builds by any stretch of the imagination, but they are really nice. You've got a few kits under your belt. You want to take some time. An ICM 48 scale kit is perfect. That Skymaster actually looks quite nice. Just a little wow. Okay, you're not using many parts there. Some interesting decals. Lots of pieces you do not use. So I wonder then, are these the same sprues as... No, they're not the same as on the Marauder. I wonder if they're on the other Invader. Huh. Because you've got completely different wings. I didn't notice that. You're getting a lot of spares in this kit. Usual comprehensive instructions. No build video because this is a slightly older release. I think it's like 2022 or 2023. But it looks lovely. And of course, with that weapon set, you've got all of the options. Just stick loads of stuff on there. Southeast Asia scheme, of course, as per the Valkyrie, which is sitting looking at me over there. And a fair number of options. 4 options, which is good. That looks pretty nice. Yeah, Sky Master looks like quite a little nice little kit actually. Wow. Again, decals look super impressive. Really nice. Let's have a look at that Sky Master just to finish it off. You realise I've got a nightmare after this, putting everything back in its bags. You can see how clear these transparencies are, even through the bags. Yeah, ICM transparencies always impress me. I think they make the best. I think Airfix are a close second, but super nice. It's sort of smooth. That's kind of what the quality of the plastic is. It's really smooth. Sometimes I find some of the Airfix kits can be a bit grainy. Sort of the plastic almost has like a texture to it, whereas these are always really nice and smooth. The texture is only what they put in. That's an impressively cast piece. That the instrument panel there. And let's go to super zoom. It's quite an impressive array of instruments on that as well. Not a huge aircraft, of course, especially not compared to the Invader. And of course, developed from the civilian one, but making it useful for different kinds of things. This looks very nice, actually. Oh, look, you've got a couple of M16s there. Wow. 48 scale M16s. Yeah, this looks, I mean, look how delicate these are. For a 48 scale aircraft, that is pretty thin. Considering this is a 1/72nd scale 109. That's a 48 scale. That is not much difference in terms of thickness, considering that this is 50% larger scale than this. Those booms must be really thin. And those wheels almost look like 72nd scale by themselves, don't you? So the Sky Master maybe is a 24-hour build, but not the Counter Invader. Yep, the Valkyrie is a fight. It is a fight, but I think the difference, right, between I don't think we need this camera anymore. The difference between this kit, which fights every step of the way. Well, I don't know if it fights or it's a bit like Joe Biden. It's just seems too old to really do its job. Poor guy. At least he's pulled out now. The difference between, and of course these are the same scale. It's ridiculous. Look at that. The difference between this and this fights you, but you get somewhere with it. You end up with something that actually looks pretty good, as a model. I mean, okay, I've done Southeast Asia scheme, so it doesn't, it's not going to look like this probably if you were doing a normal one. But, it's an impressive build. It comes together, yes, there are massive gaps that you have to fill and stuff, but yeah, it could be flying helicarrier. It is a bit like Captain Scarlet, like, Skybase. It is that kind of big. But yeah, so you're fighting it, but you end up at a destination, whereas here you fight it and there isn't a payoff. That's the difference, Whereas the Valkyrie, you feel like you've achieved something once you create that massive spear of an aircraft. Whereas at Belvedere, I just felt annoyed and disappointed. I couldn't do what I wanted to, right? I couldn't create that, that Gurkha deploying one in Burma, So anyway, that is the giant unboxing for this evening. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I hope you saw something interesting because of that. I think that last set, the name Nancom Fanon Airbase, that is a great set. I don't know how much it is. Let's have a look. See what we can see. ICM Fanon Airbase. Okay. Wow. Okay, it's £70. You're getting a lot. That's a lot for £70. So you're getting 2 aircraft, the crew, and all of the airbase. I'll say it's a diorama in a box. And that's its RRP. So I can see here you can get it for 60. That is a lot of modeling for £60. I think that's pretty good. I mean, if you consider £60, you can't buy the Tamiya F-35B. That's a lot. And there's a lot of detail. There's a lot of time, and you're getting a lot of spares. 2 complete sets of wings in that Invader. Again, I don't know the Invader well enough to know the different versions and things. I'd have to do research on that to find out. But I mean, wow, it's really, really nicely molded. I mean, would you really expect anything else from a recent ICM kit? I mean, just looking at the toolings. Okay, that B26 B50 was 2019. It doesn't look like it. It looks like a 2021 at the earliest kit, I would say. I mean, it is fabulous. Just looking at it. So the Cessna was 2020. Yeah, last released by them in 2021. Revell released it in 2022. Interestingly, they went with the all black version for theirs. So interesting. Yeah, so hopefully you saw something that you liked, and yeah, there's a pretty broad set of releases there. Next month, I think there's quite a bit of 72nd scale stuff. They're doing the Leopard again. I wonder if that's the Revell Leopard then, because it's not theirs. That'll probably be better actually, even than the 35th scale, because One thing that Revell do well is 1/72 scale armor. The 1/72 scale armor kits are pretty good. Again, of that time, you know, in the last 15 years, have they done anything really that good? Not so much. I'm quite impressed with that. I'm kind of a bit aghast at that that base set. That is pretty good. I'm actually quite looking forward to that Invader now, having seen it. It's funny how just actually looking at a kit kind of gets you enthused about it sometimes. Those blades, those prop blades are quite different, aren't they? You know, when you look at a standard prop. Interesting. Anyway, I'm whittering. Thanks so much for joining. Have a great weekend, and I shall catch you on the next one. Probably Airfix and Chill on Monday. Okay, thanks everyone. Cheers now.